Look closely at this. A silver coin from ancient Rome. Once, this was the undisputed money of the civilized world. If you held this, you held the power of an empire. But today, it's a museum piece. A relic of a failed economy. What if I told you that every major global currency since Rome has suffered the exact same fate? We are approaching the end of a 500-year historical loop. History doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes. And if you don't understand the cycle of currency death, your wealth is in serious danger. The question is not if the US dollar will fail, but when. Welcome to History's Wealth Playbook, the ultimate channel where history meets money. I'm going to share some uncomfortable truths about how the world's most powerful figures built their empires, and why those same strategies are vital for you to understand today. We are living through a historic shift. Headlines scream about de-dollarization, inflation, and the rise of new economic superpowers like China and India. But you can't understand where we're going unless you understand where we've been. In today's deep dive, we are decoding the 500-year cycle. We will analyze why every reserve currency in history, from the Portuguese real to the British pound, eventually dies. We'll uncover the exact playbook they all followed before their economies collapsed. More importantly, we will answer the most urgent question of our time: is the US dollar's reign as the world's global reserve currency over? If you hold your wealth in cash, bonds, or stock market investments that rely on the dollar's stability, this is the most critical analysis you will watch this year. Stick around, because the final lesson from History's Wealth Playbook will show you exactly how to protect your legacy, even when empires fail. To understand why currencies die, we first have to understand why they live. What exactly is a global reserve currency? It's not just money. It's the fuel of global power. It's the currency that every other nation has to hold in their central bank to settle international trades. If you are India and you want to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you don't pay in Indian rupees. You pay in US dollars. This gives the United States a massive, almost magical economic power, the ability to buy everything they need, from cheap labor to raw resources, simply by printing their own money, which the rest of the world must accept. But this privilege comes with a condition: trust. The world must trust that the currency is stable and that the nation backing it will always honor its debts. But this is where the productivity trap begins. Let's look at history's classic example, ancient Rome. At its peak around 117 AD, the Roman denarius was the global reserve. Why? Because the Roman army guaranteed the safety of trade routes. If you were a merchant in Spain selling oil to a general in Judea, you wanted denarii. You trusted it. But Rome became overextended. Constant wars required more money. The empire's productivity began to fall as they relied on slave labor instead of innovation. What did the emperors do? They started currency clipping. They began melting down the denarius and mixing in cheap copper. The original coins were nearly pure silver. By 268 AD, they contained less than 0.5% silver. The value didn't just fall, it evaporated. What can today's finance experts learn from Caesar? That you cannot solve a debt problem by debasing your money. Inflation didn't destroy Rome, the policy of inflation did. When trust died, the empire died. Now, let's fast forward to modern history and the core pattern, the 100-year rule. Since the end of the Middle Ages, the dominant power in the world, and their currency, has consistently had a lifespan of roughly 100 to 110 years. Look at the pattern. Every single one was the dominant currency. And every single one had its century, then collapsed. Let's look at the closest modern parallel to the US dollar, the British pound. In the 19th century, Great Britain was the workshop of the world. They were the premier economic, military, and financial power. If you were a global merchant, you settled in pounds. Why? Because the British Navy kept the peace and London was the center of global finance. Sound familiar? The transition happened because of 2 world wars. Wars are expensive. To pay for them, Britain borrowed massive amounts of money, primarily from the United States. They didn't just spend their wealth, they spent their future productivity. The United States, meanwhile, became the world's new production engine. The cliffhanger came in 1944. The Bretton Woods Agreement formalized the end. The pound was dethroned. The US dollar, backed by the largest legacy of gold in the world, became the new world order. The lesson from this History's Wealth Playbook? True economic power isn't based on your military, it's based on who owns the debt. But here's where his empire nearly collapsed. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the hidden cycles of history and wealth, do me a huge favor. Investing in your financial education is the single best trade you can make. It helps me immensely to keep producing this content. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and join our community of history buffs, investors, and entrepreneurs. Leave a comment below with de-dollarization to let me know you're watching. Now, let's get back to the final, critical lesson. We've learned the rules. Now we apply them to the present. The US dollar took the crown in 1944. We are now over 100 years into the American century. By historical standards, we are right on schedule for a shift. But is there actual evidence? Remember the playbook for a falling empire: excessive debt, falling productivity, and overextended military. Today, the US national debt is spiraling, approaching a breathtaking $34 trillion. The cost to even service that debt is now higher than the entire military budget. The defining moment for the US occurred in 1971. To pay for social spending in the Vietnam War, the US was printing more money than they had gold. Other nations got suspicious and started demanding their gold back. President Nixon had a choice: default on the promises, or default on the gold. He chose both. He temporarily suspended the dollar's convertibility into gold. The dollar became a fiat currency, money based on nothing but a government's promise. This was modern currency clipping. This action changed the investing landscape forever. From that moment on, we have lived in a world of endless credit and infinite inflation. The success and legacy of entire generations was devalued. So, what is the cliffhanger today? The dollarization is real. We are seeing a coordinate effort by nations like China, Russia, Brazil, and India to create alternative systems for trade. The BRICS alliance is directly attacking the US dollar's exorbitant privilege. When the world no longer needs to hold US dollars to buy oil or other commodities, a tsunami of inflation will come rushing back to American shores. The lesson from this history's wealth playbook? The final stage of a reserve currency is not an abrupt end, but a slow erosion of power that happens while the empire is distracted. The question you must ask yourself is, what can investing do when the yardstick itself is broken? This leads us to the most powerful playbook in history: how you must adapt to a post-dollar world. History isn't just a record of the past, it's a forecast of the future. The 500-year cycle shows us that no human invention, not an army, not a central bank, not even the US dollar, can escape the rule that debt always outlasts productivity. When trust dies, the currency dies. This isn't a conspiracy, it's a certainty. But there is a silver lining. A crisis is just opportunity in disguise. History also teaches us how people protected their wealth. When Rome debased its Denarius, landowners, gold bugs, and merchants holding real assets survived and even thrived. They followed the final historical rule: when paper dies, real value shines. Understanding this cycle gives you an incredible advantage. It changes your entire mindset about money, finance, and productivity. It forces you to rethink your investments and your legacy. You must not just save money, you must save value. In our next lesson on history's wealth playbook, we will move from macroeconomics to personal power. We will analyze the leadership strategies of history's most powerful man, Julius Caesar. We will dissect the exact mindset lessons he used to go from a penniless fugitive to the undisputed master of the civilized world, and the one strategic error that cost him everything. The lessons of history are the blueprints for modern power. Don't just watch, execute the playbook. Watch my next video on my channel, History's Wealth Playbook. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who loves history and wealth. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter.